Hello and welcome back to The Vacant Light. I'm back today with another video review. Today I'm covering Mgla's Presence EP, released in 2006. This EP is a follow-up to Mgla's contributions to Crushing the Holy Trinity, which was put out in 2005, and this is their first solo release, and, in my opinion, quite a good EP to listen to. If you're not familiar with Mgla, they're a two-piece black metal band from Poland, and Mgla is very good at combining black metal traditions with modern songwriting approaches and spins to their music. What I'd like to say about the appeal of the band is that even though the band has a hazy, atmospheric approach to their music, it's definitely not off-putting to people who are not super familiar or super excited about low-fidelity forms of black metal, and it is quite listenable to maybe a wider variety of people than a lot of black metal would be. With that said, let's get into the particular album here. Now this is a 3-track EP, and with pretty much all of Mgla's releases, they don't actually put titles onto their songs. The one exception to that was their contribution to Crushing the Holy Trinity, where they called their tracks Power and Will, parts 1 through 4, but that is because they weren't able to name the album themselves. But for all their solo releases, they typically use just a standard numbering scheme for their tracks. And here we have Presence 1 through 3. Now, vocally speaking, the band has a nice sort of mixture between the old school and the more modern approach to vocal presentation. The vocals are definitely a bit throaty and have that traditional black metal sound to them, but they don't try to be very intense or in your face the entire time. I find that the vocals here are very good at emphasizing what the other instruments are doing, and they're definitely not the focus on the album, but they add some key emphasis when needed. So I felt that they were very tastefully done, though definitely not the most critical part to the music here. Moving on to the guitar work. On this album, I really felt that the guitar work and the percussion were very much the highlight of the music. The guitar work is very well done, and it ranges from more straightforward black metal sounds, very melodic kind of tremolo riffing style of songs, and parts, to more doomy, sludgy approaches, such as on the 3rd track here. Now, I definitely like to say that on this particular album, I do prefer the more melodic styles, and I do feel that Mgla has been able to, later in their career, work on and improve their doomy, more slow-paced sounds here. One thing that's very interesting about Mgla's guitar work is that they never feel the need to get super intense or be in your face the entire time. I really feel that there's a good moderateness to the guitar playing altogether, where it can maintain that melody and it can maintain intensity without being super aggressive all the time. Now, along with the vocals, the guitar work has some nice double tracking here and there, but the riffs themselves are fairly straightforward, and they do capture your interest pretty quickly. I do find that the most enjoyable riff is the introduction to the 2nd track here, and I really like the way that the guitars and the percussion play off of each other. What Mgla has actually done here is they've sort of almost reversed the roles of traditional guitar playing and percussion work, and in particular, I find that the guitars maintain a constant pace or a constant grounding to the songs, while the drums and percussion is very good at changing the pace and moving the song from one segment to another in very many cases. Additionally, I really don't feel that the guitars try to be too technical at any point in time. They do what they need to do. They keep things pretty straightforward, pretty enjoyable, and have a very meat and potatoes kind of black metal vibe to them. Before I move on to the drums, I do want to mention the bass playing here, because it is quite audible. What I'd like to say about Mgla's bass playing is that it's very simple, and it works very well, and I don't feel the need to really make it do more than it has to. There's a very distinctive bass tone on here, and it does fall somewhere in between warm and just loud and very present. And I always feel that the bass is present, even if it's only doing something very simple, which is what's happening here most of the time. Again, the band uses a good amount of subtlety here to choose which parts to play, and it really shows that their songwriting is really a key aspect to this album. And last but not least, percussion is really a highlight for me, is probably the highlight of the album in my opinion, along with the guitar work. Now, what the percussion likes to do is change pace and change vibes while the guitars maintain a constant flow to them. This is especially noticeable for me on the second track, which is obviously my highlight of the album, I'd have to say, because just by changing the pacing of the drums, it feels like the guitar riffs are moving or changing while they actually are not, and it really does play a little bit of a mind game with you, and it really never gets old either. It's not like a gimmick, it's just really a non-standard creative style to songwriting that they use on the album. I really feel that the drums as well do combine traditional values of the black metal approach with some of their own vibes, especially in that songwriting context. The drums themselves have a little bit of echo to them, but there's still that blunt force you can hear when they're being hit. Also, I'd like to say that the band doesn't rely on a lot of fills or very technical parts. It's really those major changes in pacing and those shifts in the song structure that keep it very interesting without having to get too technical. I like to say that the cymbal work is notable at points as well, where it comes out a little bit on top of the snare and the bass sound, just in terms of the audibility in the mix. And that's one point I'd like to mention as well, is that I like the way this album is mixed because it feels hazy and it feels distant, but you can actually make out all the different parts. So it walks very well a nice fine line between traditional, low-fidelity black metal music and well-produced songs. And it does that in a way that sort of would satisfy people kind of from both camps. And that's really how I feel about this album. This is an album that is not really geared toward one particular type of listener. It will appeal to people who are very familiar with traditional black metal. And I think it will appeal to other metal fans as well, just in terms of the song structures and the songwriting. What I'd like to say, though, is that, I do like the more melodic parts of the album compared to the sludgier, doomier parts, but, Mgla, like I said, Mgla does work on that in their later discography. Additionally, you can start to hear elements that they use as well in some of their later releases. For example, on track number 2, you can hear a little bit of a military influence in the drumming, which comes up in some of their later EPs as well. In addition to this, Mgla's music has a bit of a folk vibe to it, if you listen to the guitar melodies and so on. And that's something they again expand on in their later discography. So I feel that this album is really enjoyable on its own, but is also a bit of a stepping stone into what they do later on. With that said, I would highly recommend Mgla's Presence EP. This is a great overall listen, and for me, Mgla is really a diamond in the rough. They are a black metal band that do not get the recognition they deserve, and they come up with some pretty innovative and very interesting material that combines traditions with a high amount of creativity. Thanks a lot for watching this video, and do support this band. Thanks, bye.